Just scrolling through Reddit and came across the Would You Rather subreddit. And I thought, let me check out a few questions from there. So sit back and let's start with the first one. First Would You Rather is from user Complex2321. Would you rather work 10 hours a day, 5 times a week, or 8 hours a day, 6 times a week? Firstly, I'd most likely go for the first option because I have 2 full days off, rather than the second option where I only have 1 day off, even though it's less hours altogether. So at the time of recording, 59 people agreed with option A and 6 people agreed with option B. So I think my opinion is quite accepted in the Reddit community. Second Would You Rather is from a user called MinecraftTour7703. Which one would you choose for your sleep schedule? Sleep for the night and no option in the day, or sleep in the day and no option for the night? So what I'll do in this case is most likely choose sleeping in the night and never in the day. Why that is because I feel like the sleep at night time is just so much more wholesome and so much more resting for your body, if you know what I mean. I think the Reddit community here are on my side with 35 votes with option A, sleeping the night and not the day, and 6 votes for sleeping in the day and not the night. Next one is from user TerribleOpinion279. Would you rather have $500 a week or unlimited free food? So this poll was closed with around 5k total votes. So as everyone probably knows, money and food are the most important things that you all need. And although I would love to have unlimited free food, money has so much more options that you can use it with whereas food is only just, satisfy the stomach. So I'd probably go for the $500 a week, which is around $26,000 extra. The next one is from user 2extra4u. Would you rather work a job or be paid by the government for being a good person, i.e. a high social credit score? I think in this situation, I'd much rather a job because it's very vague what a government wants and rewards someone for to have a high social credit score. And there could also be a risk that what I do might be against the government and I get in trouble for it. So I'd much rather not have that as an option. Next question is quite interesting. It's from user WhoKWK. Would you rather have an ethical son with morals but a failure at life in every other aspect, or an extraordinarily successful son but degenerative and unethical? I'd much rather an ethical son with morals. I feel like money will come, and because he's not doing good in life, in the money sense and in the success sense that we associate with success, I don't think that he's a failure at all. Rather, he's a success because what he's done and what he's achieved in terms of his character, no, assets can be attached to that. I pass away knowing that my son left me as a good person, then I think that's better than passing away knowing that my son is someone that is a potential harm and a wretched individual to other people. The next Would You Rather is from user Shadow Light Lady. Which illnesses would you rather cure, physical or mental? Well, this one's a tough question. Mental illnesses are quite tough, but physical ones are just so many in number. Let me know in the comments if I've taken this wrong, but I think I'll go for physical illnesses to be cured. Additional Day 260 asks, would you rather have an extra 3 hours every day or never need sleep again? And they continue with some explanation. I've always thought about how much more I could get done if there were just a few more hours in the day. It feels like between work, responsibilities and trying to have some free time, the day disappears away faster than I'd like. The other night I was on my laptop browsing random things online when I realised it was somehow already past midnight again. That got me thinking about this question. Would you rather have an extra 3 hours added to every day that you only get to experience yourself, or never need sleep again whilst feeling fully rested? The user also mentioned that the 3 extra hours can be used however you want, and if you choose no sleep, you never suffer any negative effects from it. I do look forward to sleep sometimes. It does feel like a natural stress relief after a long day, and waking up really does make you feel so much more energized for the next day. So with that in mind, I probably would miss sleep a lot. But to get those 6 to 8 hours back from sleep and use that for something else, I feel that that's too hard to not take. And if you look at it, 6 to 8 hours of sleep, that's about a third of the day. So that means throughout our lives, 1/3 of our day is going to sleep. If we add another 8 hours for work, that's 2/3. So the 1/3 for sleep, 1/3 for work, and you've only got 1/3 for leisure. And when you think about it, that is kind of profound. Yeah, overall, second option. The next would you rather is from user 2extra for you. Would you rather be a doctor that heals 100 chronically ill people a day, or a Hall of Fame professional athlete? I feel like this is probably one of the easier ones for me personally. I feel like helping other people is much more fulfilling. I'd much rather do that. And for those people who are career searching right now, I'd say to go for something that helps others. I think that a good, stable job which helps others is much better than a 6 to 7 figure job which you're indirectly or directly harming other people's lives. Of course, being an athlete, you're not making other people's lives worse, but I think in this situation, I wouldn't want the limelight. And if you think about it, athletes and even celebrities, they're not able to go outside without being hounded by people in the media. And also, there's a lot of pressure for them to do well, as we can see in the World Cup with professional athletes. The next would you rather is from user ConnectLow5841. Would you rather live with your parents until you're 45 for $1 billion, or move out earlier, have freedom but be broke? So this might be quite controversial, but option A all the way. Because not only do I get the money that I need to thrive later on in life when I need it, I can also spend all that time providing for my parents and just cherishing time with them. I think before, like we're talking about maybe 20 years ago, it wasn't a norm to stay with your parents post-education. Fast forward to 20 years later, where the rising costs of living are just crazy around the world, I think it's just normalised now to stay with your family for a longer period of time. So living with them isn't such a taboo. And I feel like, though freedom is quite nice, having parents by your side just generally in life can help you so much, emotionally, through money problems, etc. I feel like I might be on the wrong side here, but just having the thought of living with my parents for the next 20, 30 years, helping them out with shopping, taking them out to experience things, and just doing hobbies with them is quite nice. And plus, by 45, they'll be quite old, so they need like a child or someone there near them. The fact, and it's quite scary, to put them in a caring home is not something I'd want to do. Next question is from Hazen Reddy. Hope I said that right. Would you rather be in a happy relationship for the rest of your life, or be single with a close friend group for the rest of your life? Again, I feel like this is an easy answer. Let me know in the comments below. But I feel like a happy relationship, I'd pick over any group of friends, no matter how close they are. The fact is, with your friends, they get busy, and you know that closeness slowly drifts away over time. Whereas your spouse is almost always with you. And if you have that closeness as well, you can cherish so many good moments together. And probably when you guys get older, it's like your friends might move out of town, they might go somewhere completely different, they might pursue their own interests, but your spouse and yourself, you're going to be there forever, you know, thick and thin, you're always going to be there together. So I feel like maybe it's me jumping the gun, but I feel like this is a very easy question for me to pick happy relationship over a friend. But a friend group. But let me know what you guys think. Next question is from SkyGym16, and this one was quite difficult for me to answer at first. Would you rather have infinite knowledge or infinite wisdom? And he mentions below, or she mentions below. Remember, there's a difference between the two. So thinking about it, at first, it was a bit difficult to pick, but I eventually picked wisdom, and I'll explain why. So knowledge in general is manifold, that you might know something about religion, you might know something about tech, etc. But some knowledges have no benefit. The little knowledge that I have, for example, if I picked wisdom, would be able to be applicable quite well, because wisdom, from what I understand, is applied knowledge, essentially. And someone that has a lot of knowledge won't be able to apply it to certain situations with wisdom. So I feel like wisdom is just so important. And I feel like more generally, it's quite easy to become wise over time. And to become wise, you just have to understand people's experiences and learn from their experiences and try not to repeat those. For example, I'm sure you guys have heard that people in their 30s and 40s, 50s, etc., they may say some sort of advice, and that's through their life experience. And if you dodge that bullet, essentially, and you follow their advice, I feel like that's where wisdom is. It's knowing that knowledge that, for example, alcohol is bad for you, or gambling is bad for you, but then you act upon it through the advice of others. I think that's where wisdom is. Just a side point. The next would you rather is from user Complex2321. Would you rather have a child at 20 or at 45? So this question was one of those harder questions as well. 20 is good because you're still young and you can play with the child without getting tired. For example, at the park, playing football, etc. Or for those in America, soccer. But it's not the case for those who are 45, because that's the time when you're starting to decline and you might get, tired of playing with child, etc. You won't have that much energy as you did when you're 20. I feel like in your mid 20s slash end of 20s, it's probably best to have a child then. And generally your peak in life is probably from 30 to 40, and then after that you slowly decline. So 45 is outside that range, and you're slowly starting to decline. So if I were to pick between the two extremes, one being very young and being inexperienced in life, and the other option being old but experienced in life, I'd go for being 20-year-old and having a child. Only because of the amount of experiences you're going to have, the amount of things to learn, the things that you can impart on that child. And you guys are similar in age, so he can learn or she can learn a lot from you and from your experiences. Whereas when you're 45, a lot has changed in those 20, 30 years. So it'd be quite difficult to impart those sort of advices, I think, compared to having a child at 20. Next, would you rather is from user Glitch Operative. Would you rather get $1 million today or get $5 every time someone silently judges you for the rest of your life? If you do the maths on that, $1 million, and if you split that from $5 every time someone judges you, that's about 200,000 people judging you, or 200,000 instances where someone is judging you. I don't think as well that the judging that would happen will reach around $1 million. And someone that is not the best at managing money, I'd rather have that $1 million up front, then I can be able to spend it accordingly, rather than just getting the $5 each time and not being able to save that. Next, would you rather is from user HB0080. Would you rather have a level 100, meaning max level on one ability, or level 10 on 100 abilities? So in this question, I feel like, again, it's probably a no-brainer for me personally. I'd probably pick the second option, level 10 on 100 abilities. I'd rather be good at 100 abilities to a certain level than being just perfect in one ability. I feel like when you're all-rounder in certain aspects, it's probably much better. For example, you could be really good in your outward character, but you could be really nasty at home. And you could be really good at speaking, but you could lack empathy. Another example that comes to mind, you could be really smart at school, but your problem-solving overall is just terrible in life. So these 100 abilities probably would be put into different, strengths. Like, for example, speaking skills, kindness, empathy, academic understanding, writing skills, memory, etc. And if I had to pick one ability, what would that be? It would probably be kindness and empathy, because I think that's what we all need. Next question is from user Sugar Sold, SOAD. Maybe that's right, maybe it's wrong. Do forgive me. Would you rather all of your books be paperback, hardback, or audiobooks? So this one is a bit tough, because I'm kind of a book person, a bookworm. I would probably prefer hardback or paperback, but if I had to choose between the two, then 100% I'd go for hardback. Why I would go for hardback is that I'm not good at maintaining things, so over time using that book, etc., the wear and tear would probably destroy the book if it was paperback. But for hardback, you have that extra strength in that book, but it is quite heavy to carry when you're going to work, for example, or you're just on the train, etc., or on the bus or in the car, and you want to read something, and let's say you've got 2-3 books, it's going to quickly make your bag quite heavy. Or even if you've got one book and you've got a lot of things in your bag. So I would probably go for hardback. And just more generally as well, I'd probably have a library in my house rather than audiobooks or even ebooks, because those books I can easily just pick up and just read, whereas audiobooks and ebooks, although you have quick access via your phone, I think there's just something special about having those books in front of you, etc. And you can exchange those books much more easier. If you want to give it to a friend, or if you want to give it to a family member, it's just so much more easier. Next, would you rather is from Amelays 2020. Would you rather have a twin the same gender as you or the opposite? So this question is quite difficult, because there's pros on both sides and cons obviously on both sides. I'd probably rather want to have a sister that is the same gender and my twin. I feel like if you had a brother, you'd always have someone you're competing with. And I feel like I'd fight more with a boy twin compared to a sister who is my twin. And if you have a sister as your twin, then I'd feel like you'd get along more. And I say that because there'd be less competition, in my opinion. And just generally having a sister, it's like having free therapy and just advice in life, especially with relationships. The next would you rather is from a deleted user. And the question that he has is, would you rather end all illness or end poverty? I feel like, again, this might be a bit of an easy one, because if you end poverty and people have money, they can actually look after themselves when it comes to healthcare. And having a better diet, and just things that they can do to prevent illness. Whereas if you're poor and you're in a state of poverty, then it's very difficult to afford healthcare, sometimes even choosing what you want to eat and just going for healthy alternatives, because a lot of the times fast food is much more cheaper. And just a point I was thinking about as well, if everyone donated a small bit of their wealth, if we look at the statistics, we could literally end world hunger. And it's kind of crazy thinking about it, but it's very simple and it's very easy. Just something I've been thinking about for a while. Next would you rather is from user Simplicit Yo, I believe that's how you say it. Would you rather know everything about the ocean or space? I feel like, again, this is probably one of the more harder questions from the questions that we've got here. With the ocean, it's quite vast and there's so much left for us to discover. We're so advanced, yet we don't know what's in the deep parts of the ocean. And I'm a bit of a documentary fan, and I remember coming across a few documentaries where it discusses the ocean. There's certain layers of the ocean which are so deep that light can't travel, and we've recently discovered creatures that honestly look like they came out of a horror movie. But at the same time, space is so vast, and I feel like there's so much more for us to discover compared to the ocean. And I'd love to know about all the different galaxies and just be amazed at the sheer size of space. So I would love to see the ocean, but I think in this situation, I'd want to know much more about space. The next would you rather is from user D Coil. Would you rather be a billionaire but give up alcohol and drugs, or keep your life the way it is? I feel like, again, I might be wrong here, but I feel like this is a no-brainer, and I'd probably be a billionaire or want to be a billionaire compared to keeping alcohol and drugs. I feel like there's so much more enjoyment in life without alcohol and drugs. You know, you might be a case that if you have alcohol and drugs to a certain level, it's fine. I'm sure I've heard of so many people arguing that, but you can never control yourself completely. There might be times when you're going through a hard time and you're ending up drinking more alcohol than you should, or having drugs which is not sustainable. And I wouldn't want that risk more generally, and risk, losing out on being a billionaire just for a bit of enjoyment for like a few seconds or for a few minutes or maybe for a few hours. I feel like our generation in particular are so needy of instant gratification that things like alcohol and drugs are for a lot of people a lifeline. I've got a alcohol and drug-free life and I feel like it's going perfectly fine. So I'd happily take that $1 billion any day. The next question is from another deleted user. Would you rather earn $1 for every word you say or earn $1 for every step you take? So for this question, I'd probably go for $1 for every step I take, and I'll explain why. I feel like if you're more of a thoughtful person, you'd talk less, and the walking that you do would be much more than you talk, because sometimes just for the sake of talking we actually make a lot of mistakes, and I'd rather walk much more than speak much more, because I feel like there's more risk. The more I talk, the more people I can hurt. That's just my take, and I know it might be incorrect, but it's just more of a philosophical argument that I'm trying to put here. So that's the last would you rather that I've got. So that's about 20 would you rathers in around 20 minutes. So they were quite interesting altogether. Some were quite easy, some were a bit more harder. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below about some of these questions.